Um, right, so like all of this is cobble. Not sure about this. Probably the black stone. Oh, this. Let me temporarily. That there. That there. Great. Alright, cobble there. And of course I don't actually have enough cobble for all of this. Alright, let me just do this for now. Alright. That goes out that way. Okay, we have snow blocks. I was doing this. One, two, three, four. 1, 2, 3, 4. Put that there, put that there. And that there. Two, three, four. That's not what I wanted. Two, three, and 4. Stair. Right. 2, 3, and 4. And then that there. I mean, thinking about 1984 still. It describes a society where there are constant shortages. And you mean, it was written in 1948. It actually predicted the mistakes, or maybe it was at around the same time, the mistakes that China did in the Great Leap Forward, right? Planned economy. I guess the Soviet Union would do similar things too. Like you try to predict how much food production you need, or any sort of production, but you would always like guess wrong. You would like underestimate the needs, and then people end up not getting enough. But there are consequences, right, to making mistakes like that. It will start affecting production of the things that you need. Like if people are starving, their productivity goes down. And in the real world, the Soviet Union lost the Cold War. Partly because their planning was less efficient, because they didn't use the market right. They used planning, and the planning was not effective enough to accurately allocate resources. And like all sorts of shortages happen all the time. And then if you add a war on top of that, what I'm trying to say is, if you have two competing powers, like there was, like the Western Bloc and the Soviet Bloc, and you allocate your resources less efficiently than the other bloc, you'll lose, right? They'll get an advantage over you. They'll be more productive than you. And eventually, like, you lose that economic contest. In 1984, the story is that there are 3 blocks, and all 3 blocks are doing the same thing. Right? All 3 blocks are doing the same stupid thing. And I get it. It's a dystopian future where there's no hope. Except that, realistically, because they're all competing against each other, you would take any advantage you can get, and if not being as oppressive gives you an advantage, you wouldn't be so oppressive if you were trying to win. And so, yeah, in the real world, a situation like that would be an unstable equilibrium. Like, it might last for a while, but eventually it wouldn't be stable over a long time, I don't think. And who knows, right? Because the whole story is a point in time. And you might argue that 1984, the world describes there, that's also not a stable system, that eventually it breaks down. Possibly. Okay, what's next? And do I do the same thing? Well, I was very entertained by Hate Week. Was it the 2-minute hate or the 4-minute hate? How many minutes was the hate? Very entertained by the ritualistic hating. One, two, three, 1, 2, 3. Howard says that there's a convincing argument that the 3 blocks as described don't exist. Yeah. His state would obviously want to keep the populace downtrodden and scared of the other, so making up evil states that are continuously at war with is useful. Especially considering the enemy changes so often. Yeah. Yeah. Right, so that's a slightly different situation. What if it's actually a world government, and the 3 states are a fiction, or the 3 blocks are a fiction? And that... See, that's the thing, right? Because if there's no competition, you can be as inefficient as you like. And that would be sustainable because there's nobody else you're competing against. How is this exactly? The state controls the flow of information. Yeah. Um, I mean, I wouldn't know because we've never had that situation before, right? In our world, we've never gotten a world government with that much control. How is this? This is why the White House trying to control what the press releases is so scary. What the good news for us is that the White House does not control the whole world, right? They only control what they can control, which is not even the whole of the United States. So we're not at the situation where they actually are able to control everything. How is this? Thankfully, they refuse to sign. Yeah. Yeah, so like even in the United States, people aren't going along with it. It's very hard though. When you... I'm trying to say, it's very hard to oppress people. Because you have to spend a lot of effort controlling everything. How is this? Doesn't matter, as the whole world doesn't vote in their elections. And people do still trust the mainstream media. I wonder about that. I wonder about that. Again, like in the short to medium term, I think I would agree with your pessimism. I keep saying in the long term, they will lose to their competition if they're less efficient. But again, that might take a long time to play out. And a lot of things can happen along the way. And then that stuff. Not there, right? Oh yes, it is there, okay. Yeah, actually, I mean... I can't foresee what will happen to the United States. Which is to say, like, for the foreseeable future, I think it's gonna continue. And it could go on for a long time. Like, if you look at history, you look at historical empires, things happen more quickly these days, of course, because of technology. But back in the old days, you can have a corrupt empire lasting for hundreds of years. So, like, entire generations of people will live and die in misery. That's awful. So, yeah. I mean, these days things happen more quickly because everything moves faster, but... Okay, I need more cobblestone. I mean, going back to like Chinese history, the Qing dynasty lasted for hundreds of years. And if the European colonization thing wasn't happening, it might have continued for hundreds of thousands of years, hundreds of years more. And by all accounts, it was pretty awful. Like the corruption was pretty bad, things were pretty inefficient, stagnation. Who knows, right? You can't really tell. Look, because I was gonna say, because even within one block, let's say like in the world of 1984, everyone is actually in one block and there's no opposition. But even within the block, are there really no competition? Like, are there no factions within the block? Like, are there not any people like I'm trying to get a promotion over the other guy? Right? I don't actually want to go up there, my bad. You know, like even within one company, for example, people are trying to compete for promotions. Howard says you have to carry on listening. Oh, good. Yeah, good. Actually, you're right, because I'm at the end of... I've just finished part 2, starting part 3. And we already see that there is opposition, kind of. Although that might also be pretend opposition. Yeah, okay. I'll keep on listening, you're right. I think that can be snow. But you know, like, if there are factions, if there is competition, and then if one faction has a slight advantage over the other faction, then that would lead to changes. It would be slightly unstable. That's not right. What are we doing? Okay, that goes there. Right, not this one. Having said that, in China, the Cultural Revolution didn't end until Mao died. It's kind of incredible. Like, there definitely were factions. Not everybody was on the same team. I think those are snow. Yeah, so like, what surprises me is how well 1984 predicted the Cultural Revolution. Because it was written before the Cultural Revolution, right? Did Mao just read 1984 and decide, you know what, I want to try this? Like the whole ideological enforcement. Purging people who don't think the same way as you. Even like getting young people to spy on their families and neighbors. That's exactly what happened. That's crazy. Unbelievable. How did George Orwell know? I don't know my Soviet history enough to know whether that was already happening in the Soviet Union. Maybe it was already happening in the Soviet Union. There should be water there. Oh, that's not good. Actually, no, I think that's fine. No, that's fine. Okay, block. Was that fine? I think that's fine. Howard says, yeah, it was. Yeah, okay. It was already happening in the Soviet Union. I get it. Another one of his books, Animal Farm, does the Soviet Union, with Stalin and others being the animals. Yeah. Yeah. Man, it was a bad idea, though. The Soviet Union messed themselves up Mao also messed up China. China kind of recovered after Mao died, but the Soviet Union really did not. Oh, I just messed that up. Is that fine? That's fine, I didn't lose anything. Look at that. How is this a lot less obvious than 1984? Still a fun book though. Yeah, the whole animals thing. I think people are not as on guard against cute animals, right? How is it quick read too? Yeah. "1984" goes a lot into the feeling, like how it feels to be oppressed. But maybe that's important. The way like people's emotions can be manipulated, I think that's an important message. Not sure if everybody gets it. Hate Week. Hate Week is pretty good. Like, if people just stop thinking when they get angry. And it doesn't even matter who they're angry against. They just want, it's gonna be angry.